Elizabeth Harding had never expected her peaceful river ride to turn into a battle for her life. One moment, she was admiring the cottonwoods, reflecting on the water. The next, her raft struck a hidden snag and flipped with a violent crack. Cold water swallowed her whole. She gasped, clung to a floating plank, and kicked her way toward the muddy bank, coughing and shaking. Just when the world began to tilt, a deep voice cut through the rush of river water. "Hold on, I'm Cumin." A tall cowboy with chestnut hair and a weathered hat dashed down the bank. Maverick, known across the county as the quiet horseman who preferred solitude, splashed into the shallows and reached her in 2 long strides. His hands were warm and strong as he pulled her upright. "You all right, ma'am?" he asked, brushing wet strands of hair from her face. Elizabeth nodded, though her voice trembled. Thank you. The raft, it just broke apart." Maverick scanned the river, then glanced toward the horizon. Storm clouds crawled over the mountains. "No way you're macking it back to town in that. My camp's close. We'll wait out the night and figure out rescue come mornin'." She hesitated alone in the wilderness with a stranger, but one look at his steady eyes, full of calm reassurance, eased her worry. "All right," she whispered. They walked through the tall grass, her clothes dripping, his hand guiding her gently. Maverick led her to a clearing tucked beneath cedar trees. A tidy camp-weighted bedroll, fire pit, and a horse tied to a fallen log. Maverick's movements were careful, respectful, as he handed her a blanket and started a fire. "You're shacking like a leaf," he said softly. "Cold," she replied, and scared. Maverick sat beside the fire, his gaze steady but kind. "You're safe now. I promise you that." Elizabeth watched the flames dance. Despite the storm building above, she felt oddly at peace. Something about Maverick's presence, solid, quiet, unwavering, made her heartbeat settle. "Thank you," she murmured, hugging the blanket closer. Maverick tipped his hat slightly, just doing what any decent cowboy ought to do. But the way he looked at her, like she was a sunrise caught in human form, told her this night was going to be far more than an act of kindness. The storm rolled in fast. Drumming on the canvas tarp Maverick had stretched between 2 cedars. Elizabeth huddled near the fire as thunder growled through the valley. Maverick fed another log into the flames, his hands steady despite the wind whipping around them. "You camp out here often?" she asked, trying to distract herself from the storm. "Most days," he said, with a faint smile. "Quiet out here. Easier to think when the world ain't so loud." Elizabeth studied him, broad shoulders, a jawline dusted with stubble, eyes the color of warm earth. A rugged man who belonged to the wild. "You like being alone." "Reckon I do," he said, "till tonight, anyway." She felt heat rise in her cheeks. "You didn't have to stop and help." He shrugged gently. "Couldn't just ride by. You looked terrified." "I was," she swallowed. "But when you pulled me out of that river, I felt safe. I haven't felt that way in a long time." Maverick turned his gaze toward the dancing flames. "You've been through something rough." "My family's farm is failing," she admitted. "I thought I'd try the river to clear my head. Ended up nearly drowning instead." She gave a shaky laugh. His eyes softened. "You're stronger than you think. Most folks would have panicked and gone under. But you fought to stay above water." His words struck deep, warm, and comforting. "You make it sound braver than it felt." Maverick removed his coat and draped it over her shoulders. "Bravery ain't feelin' fearless. It's moving anyway." Elizabeth stared at him, her heart swelling unexpectedly. "You talk like a poet." "No, ma'am," he said with a slow grin. "Just a cowboy with a good memory for hard lessons." Lightning flashed, illuminating the clearing in bright white. Instinctively, Elizabeth flinched and Maverick reached out, resting a steady hand over hers. "You're gonna be all right," he whispered. Their fingers lingered together longer than necessary. The storm raged around them, but the fire crackled warm, and between them grew something quiet, tender, unspoken. Elizabeth realized she wasn't just grateful. She was drawn to him, in a way that felt as natural as the river's flow. By midnight, the storm had passed, leaving the world washed clean. A crisp breeze carried the scent of pine, and the sky stretched above them like a dark velvet curtain studded with silver stars. Maverick stepped out from under the tarp. Skies clearing. Come, take a look. Elizabeth followed, pulling his coat tighter around her. The moment she stepped into the open clearing, she stopped in awe. Thousands of stars shimmered above, bright enough to cast their own soft light. It's beautiful, she breathed. Maverick stood beside her, tips of his boots brushing hers. Storms always make the stars shine brighter after. Something about trouble has a way of revealing what we forget to notice. She turned to him, and he wasn't looking at the sky, he was looking at her. Her breath caught. What? She whispered. I ain't never seen Starlight hit someone quite like that, he said quietly. Her pulse fluttered like a skittish colt. Maverick. He looked away, suddenly shy. Sorry, didn't mean to overstep. Just talkin' too much. No, she said softly. I liked it. Silence settled around them, warm rather than awkward. Elizabeth sank onto a flat rock near the water's edge. Maverick joined her, leaving only a few inches between them. The river whispered as it slid over stones. Gentle now, almost apologetic for its earlier rage. Do you ever get lonely out here? She asked. Sometimes, he admitted. World feels easier without people, but it don't feel fuller. Elizabeth nodded. I know that feeling. He glanced at her. You ain't alone tonight. Her heart warmed. She traced circles in the damp sand with her fingertip. I'm glad you found me, she said quietly. Maverick's voice dropped low. I reckon I'm glad too. A shooting star streaked across the sky. Elizabeth gasped. Maverick smiled. Make a wish, he murmured. She closed her eyes and whispered a secret wish she didn't dare speak aloud. Let this night mean something. When she opened her eyes, Maverick was looking at her like he already knew what she wished for. And somehow, she wasn't ashamed of it. Not one bit. The fire had burned down to glowing embers, but the warmth between them only grew stronger. Maverick handed Elizabeth a tin cup of warm coffee he'd heated over the coals. She wrapped her hands around it gratefully. You're full of surprises, she teased. Saving stranded women, making campfires, brewing coffee under the stars. Would have baked a pie too, if I'd known I was getting company, he said with a playful smirk. Elizabeth laughed for the first time that day. Maverick watched her, his expression softening. That laugh, he murmured, almost to himself, could chase off any storm. She felt heat rise in her cheeks. You talk like that, and I might start thinking you're sweet. Maybe I am, he said gently. For the right person, Elizabeth met his gaze and the air changed, warm, heavy, electric. Maverick, why are you being so kind to me? She whispered. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. 'Cause I know what it's like to feel like the world's pushing you under. And 'cause when I saw you today, something in me said, not to let you go. Her heart fluttered wildly. You barely know me, maybe, he said. But I know enough to see you're someone worth knowing. Someone strong, someone brave, someone, he paused, swallowing. Someone who makes this lonely place feel less empty. The warmth in her chest threatened to overflow. You make me feel safe, she admitted, and I don't say that lightly. His eyes softened, even glimmered. Elizabeth, I ain't trying to rush nothing, but I'd be lying if I said tonight didn't mean something to me. It means something to me too, she whispered. Their hands brushed, then intertwined slowly, carefully, like something sacred. The river hummed beside them. The stars glowed above. And in that quiet place, something real was taking root. Then Maverick spoke, voice low. Tomorrow, when help comes, I'd like to see you again, properly, not rescued from their river meeting, but something honest. Elizabeth smiled warmly. I'd like that. They sat together in silence, hearts open, hands held tight. The kind of moment that didn't need words. Tonight wasn't just survival. Tonight was the beginning of something fate had been trying to write for a long, long time. Sunrise painted the sky in soft gold and rose. Elizabeth woke wrapped in Maverick's coat, the warmth of the fire replaced by a gentle breeze. Maverick was saddling his horse, glancing toward the trail every few moments. "You sleep all right?" he asked when she stirred. "Better than I expected," she said, smiling. He returned, the smiles slow warm, full of something new. "Good riders from town should be cumin soon. I sent my horse out last night with a signal rope. He'll lead M back." Sure enough, the sound of approaching hooves echoed through the trees minutes later. Two men rode into view, waving. "There they are," one shouted. Elizabeth stood, heart tightening. Rescue meant safety, but it also meant leaving Maverick. The men dismounted, checking her for injuries. Maverick stepped back, giving her space, but his eyes never left her. "You sure you're all right, ma'am?" one rescuer asked. Elizabeth nodded. "I'm fine, thanks to him." They all looked at Maverick, who tipped his hat sheepishly. As they prepared to return to town, Elizabeth walked up to him, hands trembling slightly. "Thank you," she said softly. "Didn't do nothin' special," he murmured. "You did more than you know." She took his hand gently. "About yesterday and last night. I meant every word." Maverick stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "Then let me say this plain. I want to see you again. Not just once, not just because of the river, but because last night felt like a road I want to keep walking with you." Her heart swelled. "I want that too." He smiled, a rare, breathtaking smile. "I'll come by the Hardings' farm tomorrow," he said. "If that's all right." "It's more than all right," she replied. Her rescuers called to her. She squeezed his hand once more before joining them. As she rode away, she looked back Maverick, standing in the clearing, bathed in morning light, watching her with a tenderness she'd never known. Elizabeth knew her life had changed. One starry night on the riverbank had turned strangers into something far richer, something that felt like destiny. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more Western stories.